Count to five and then hit it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the best darn show on the internet, the Sharon Show. One of the only shows that doesn't play like 30 minutes of
Intro.
intro. I'll just say, I was going to say something derogatory, but I'll be nice. 30 minutes of intro and make you wait. You get right when you come here. I mean, maybe in the future we'll get something that's like a minute or something, but I think for now, this is just perfect. Anyway,
I like
Sharon,
it.
what's going on?
I like just getting right to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
I
get
know
her
what you're saying.
done.
This way
If
people
I
have
want to listen to music, I'm going to play music.
yeah. Yeah, you guys hear that out there? Just get right to your
Just
stuff. Nobody wants to
kidding.
do music for 30 minutes. All right. So we do have a quote today. If I could find it. Here it is. Our quote today is by Alan Watts. Problems that remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. Got to think about that one a little bit. I'll read it again.
Problems that
Problems that
remain.
remain persistently insoluble should always be suspected as questions asked in the wrong way. I like that. I
It
like it
may when I
because, go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. You tell me first.
I was just gonna say I like it because everybody, it's like everyone's got problems, man. We all got our problems. And that's kind of the mainstream view of it, right? Everyone's like, yeah, more, like more laws, more problems. My website.com, everybody. But if you look at all these, whatever they are that we consider to be problems as maybe something else, maybe a message
Opportunities?
from the universe, maybe who knows, could it be, right? I think that this way you might be able to look at your quote unquote problems in a different way and perhaps solve them, or just realize that, just like the yin and the yang of the lovely Tao that we're going to be talking about, there's always the up and the down, the black and the white. This It's like the duality of this realm that we live in. So
Yeah, and what it made me think of, problems that remain persistently insoluble. I thought of the cycle of things that happen to us when, let's just use the cliche of like, I keep attracting the wrong person or I keep attracting the wrong guy. You know, that is can be a problem, right? But we're probably not asking the right question, or we're asking the question in the wrong way. We should be more like, the common denominator in all of my failed relationships is who? Me. So the question should be, what is it that is attracting them toward me? What is it about me? And is it something I can fix? And is it something I can address? So that's what it made me think of.
yeah, I love it. That's why it's great that we read these quotes that always don't make sense. It's kind of like parable-ish a little bit because they mean something different to everybody. And what's up, Blue Kachina? What's up, Luna Rose?
Oh,
Long
yeah.
time no see. How you been?
Well, there we go. Yeah, long
What's
time
going
no
on?
see.
Like all the little
Luna
symbols she gave
Rose.
us.
Yay. And welcome, Blue Kachina.
Yeah, welcome. And
So
if you
I don't
guys,
know what Blue Kachina meant by probably me, but if it's about the attracting the same person over and over again,
yeah,
I'm sorry, bro.
yeah.
I get it. So anyway, I am pulling a card from the I Ching, and we shall see what we get here. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Fellowship. Sky above, fire below. Makes me think of Fellowship of the Ring.
Oh yeah.
So hard to see. I'll angle it so you can see the shadows and stuff. It's very bright in this room right now. There is some cloud cover, so everything is just white outside and it's just very bright, shining in my room. So, Fellowship, and it's number 13, which I failed to say.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, um, without further ado, unless Brandon has something to say about the card,
No,
there's
go.
like there's like 5 little bones sitting around a fire in like what looks like a cave. All right, here we go. Number 13, Fellowship, the I Ching. Sky above, fire below. When communal or tribal bonds unite a group of people, great success is possible. Holy smokes, how synced is this right now, I think. And we'll talk about it in a minute, maybe. But such bonding only develops if personal interests are subordinate to virtuous human relations, like open communication and empathy. The broader the perspective, the greater the good that can be achieved, and the greater the potential good, the more powerful the support behind it. A spirit of cooperation steadies the boat for the good of all, though it does help to have a beautiful island of high ideals to row toward. Learn to respect the power of diversity, for a community's strength lies not only in its numbers, but in the diverse skills and collective resources of its members. Like the stoutest walls reinforced by different materials, the strongest groups benefit from a tolerance of differences, strengthening the fabric of the whole. With a unified group solidly behind you, even difficult enterprises can be undertaken without great risk. Well, I will save the changing lines for the end of the show, but I will say that that was very synced because in a group chat I was in earlier, we were talking about these online cults that form over time, since around the whole scamdemic and the nonsense of 2020. There were lots of people that wanted to get together online, and they weren't necessarily finding people around them who had similar views, but they found those people online. And so, for whatever reason, and I personally think it's because when one feels isolated, that's like a trauma response to maybe find community, find somebody who can echo our feelings, our thoughts about certain matters. And when you find something like that, you kind of maybe aren't paying attention so much to what people are saying, as long as they're still kind of in agreement with the things that you're saying, and you maybe don't vet things very well. Your mind is not very maybe you're not being critical enough in a good way, just skeptical, like a good skeptic, like the Greek philosophers talk about. And you could find yourself, being part of a cult that you never even noticed, you never even realized, because you will begin to idolize certain behaviors, certain thing going on, and next thing you know, you're participating in an online cult. And it's funny because I've been hearing about different ones from just different people, and how there are shows dedicated, like docuseries and docudramas and documentaries dedicated to these online cults that have popped up in the recent past. And they're not new. This whole cult phenomenon is not new. It's an old trick, but that card made me think of that. I mean, and it's totally in line, because yes, community does, if you're in one where the value systems and everything are for the greater good, and as long as the community is, I personally think, as long as the community is small enough, because once it starts to grow, that's when things kind of get out of hand. But if you have like a small community of people around you, it could be your neighborhood, it could be, people at your a favorite place to go, whether it's a church or a gym or something like that. Some little small community of people can do good, but I think it gets insane when it's too big and too many people. And that can easily happen online for sure. So anyway, that was my little rant
Yeah,
for
no, I like
today.
it. It's so true. There's two things that I wanted to say about that. One of them is that it seems there's a boom right now in these shows about cults, or it's just kind of like a new trend. And the other thing I'll talk about that in a second, but so I don't forget, I just wanted to say that. And the other thing is in the beginning of what you read about the card is kind of really the key to keeping a community from being a cult, because I think it depends on what you focus on. And I know it said something about keeping your horizons broad or something like that, like keeping
Mm-hmm.
your
Oh, yes. The
what's it
broader the
say in the beginning?
perspective,
Yeah, the
it's like the
perspective, right?
broader perspective, the greater the good that can be achieved,
Yeah, the
and the
broader the
greater the
perspective.
potential good, the more powerful the support behind it.
Because I don't think there's anything wrong, obviously, with having a community and a group of people to get together, but it just depends on what the group is formed around, and then are there like strict limits of belief, like you have to believe in this, or you have to say this to be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 100%. And the whole
Or
thing
you
about,
have to completely agree with the cult leaders' ideas and ideals and values,
yeah, whoever
whether they be
the center figure is, you have to agree. And if you don't, then you're ostracized from the group or you're made fun of or whatever. And it just reminds me, it's like a microcosm of the culture that we exist in, because cult just comes from culture anyway. Oh, what's up, Robo Honky? What's it say? Did social distancing bring us digital cults? Yeah, I think
yeah,
it.
I
Yeah,
think
wow.
perhaps that's a good point.
That's a yeah. And the thing about like cults, obviously, it's short for culture, and we live in a cult. If you can think about it, like we're all part of a cult. We just might not participate as much as some people, but there's some people that participate hardcore, like they go out once a year and vote. They um they participate in certain things, but even the slang and the language that we use is just part of the cult, because really
Yes.
there's nothing you can do. It's really like the collective consciousness. And this is something that next week, guys, tune in, because we talked to Christopher Gardner yesterday, the illustrious Topher from topherhq.com. And we talked about a lot of this kind of stuff, not exactly culture, but this a lot about like spirituality and stuff. And we're part of this collective consciousness. Oh, this is the part we talked about. Like you want to still fit in with people and society, or I'll say if you still do, because some people they just go to the mountaintop and
And
they
that's
become
their
a hermit.
journey.
That's fine. But if you don't want to be the hermit and all that stuff, you still have to interact. So to some degree, even knowing the language could be argued that you're kind of part of the cult, because every little group or clique or cult thing gets its own language. Like poker is a perfect example. I played poker at casinos and tournaments and stuff like that. And there's just a whole slang to the words that you use. And, people just act all cool about it. But it's the same thing with online groups and all this stuff. And again, that's fine as long as you know what you're in and what you're doing and you're not like part of the problem. So I think it's about keeping the perspective broad and focusing on the what's important. Just like if you could get a cult that was like the main tenet was the golden rule, then I think you'd be good as long as you actually followed it and you just didn't
Right.
say it was and then not act like that, kind of like
Exactly. It's
some
about
too.
actions speak louder than words. But I'm thinking too, like you can be part of multiple little communities. You don't have to it's not, oh, this is the one and the only one. I think that's also where people get in themselves into trouble, because they can become very fanatical, and it happens in religion, it happens in Christianity all the time. My version is the one and only and the best, and all of y'all are going to hell because you don't believe exactly the way I do. And that's, again, it's not a it's a problem for the person experiencing it, because it's just not helpful, right? Maybe one day they'll figure out that there's more out there in life than
Yeah.
just one single community. So you can be part of, you can be part of the YMCA, and you can part of, all these other kinds of clubs and groups and stuff that do things together. And, you can go to hiking group, you can go into a, rock climbing group, and, you can do the things that you like, but you don't have to make it the be all end all. of your life. I mean, if you do, that's fine. That's your that's your choice. But
Yeah,
to be balanced, you
100%.
know, is the goal, I think.
And what you said about in the beginning about the 2020 nonsense, it's so true because so many people felt ostracized, but we were like in small pockets. I mean, I was lucky because people in my family, they kind of saw it was what was going on, and a lot of my friends did. But I talked to a lot of people that had nobody around them that saw the way or even close to the way they did of what was going on in 2020. So I could see it, and that's why we don't judge it, right? Because we understand it. I mean, we were probably part of one ourselves. Um, but I think that what happened was when all that stress went away, and I've said this a bunch of times, and all that 2020, 2021, 2022 stress got away when the whole like experimental medical serum lost its thunder, when people weren't really trying to get everybody to do that anymore. There wasn't this common enemy as much anymore. So, and this is stuff we talked about on a lot of shows with adrenaline addiction and stuff. People started to look for other ways to get their adrenaline subconsciously too. They probably didn't even realize it. And I think other people, and it's funny because if you go through this experience, whatever it is, you're always going to separate. Some people are going to learn from it and move on to different things, and other people just aren't ready to do that yet. So they are going to stay in the chaos or whatever it is of that situation. And I think that's what happened. And, it doesn't mean that these people are lesser than you or you're better than them or anything like that. It's just that I think the way I look at it is I just have gratitude that I met people and, uh, that I got to learn. But it is funny that, I mean, I guess some people might know what we're talking about, but the person at the center of this taught me a lot and I learned a lot. It's so funny. So it really, anybody or anything could be a teaching or an asset to you. As
Mm-hmm.
long as, again, you just don't put it on a pedestal, right? You don't put that
Right.
person or idea or whatever it is on a pedestal. And I think you'd be fine.
Yeah. Speaking of just quickly of the whole, you said something about, oh, nobody's really pushing that medical serum anymore, but experimental medical serum anymore. But um Cody likes to play like Spotify or whatever sometimes, and he doesn't have like the premium, so it just plays ads sometimes. And I've been hearing these ridiculous ads that do that. And the interesting part about it is that to me, I just thought of this as you were speaking, is that it's like the ads you see on TV for pharmaceutical products. And they're very much like, if you XYZ talk to your doctor, you may be a candidate for da 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 da, right? So the thing is about they did that, right? They did that for all these years with all kinds of, I would still call all those things were experimental medical things, um and yet they would only target them to whoever was willing to go and ask their doctor about it, right? But in the case of what happened in 2020, it became almost a like, no, everybody has to do this. Whereas with everything else, it was never like that. And I mean, not never, but it wasn't, for the most part, it wasn't like that, unless it was like all those things we got when we were babies. But
Yeah.
so now that I hear them, I'm still hearing ads for those things. I'm hearing an ad for the experimental medical thing that's, the next round of it. I don't, and it's like, it says it's by the CDC. It doesn't even say the CDC. It says this was brought to you by, or something like that, CDC. And I'm just like, okay, that's weird. And it's still pushing it. So I don't know. I see you're reading the chat though.
Yeah, I'm just checking it out. PK. What's up, Quiet Sparky Bear? PK.
Welcome, PK,
Mm,
Chris, Steve. Oh, now how you frame it, victim is victim versus opportunity. Yes.
but yeah, there is really no surprise that I think one of them was like a twin flames cult or something. And then there's
Yes, there's one that I
Netflix
heard about like
documentaries on
that.
different ones, and they even break down different ones that happen throughout time. And I think it's just because whenever the society at large goes through a traumatic event, like we went through almost 4 years ago now, I think that's just what's going to happen. We're going to get a lot of that, especially with the internet the way it is.
Yeah. But my point was back in the day, the year of the nonsense and the year after, it was like mandatory for everyone to do this. But now it's like, oh, this is an ad. It's just another ad. It's like if anybody wants to do that, right? It's not like you must, but it's now just like an ad, like, oh, if you XYZ, this is the next set of whatever. Like, okay. I'll have to pay attention to what it says again next time I hear it.
Yeah, it's so great. It's like that's why I love shows like South Park or like Rick and Morty and stuff like that because they show this stuff. And South Park did an episode where everything was like a commercial. They're like, wait, is this a commercial? Like, that whatever was going on, then they found out it was like a commercial like 5 minutes in. And that's kind of what 2020 was. It was just a commercial for this experimental medical serum. Like, but they just turned everything toward it, like everything was
Mhm.
on. Like they got went viral like crazy. When you talk about going viral, that's funny too, viral, right? But that whole 2020 thing, that's something that really went viral, like the whole JFK assassination that went viral, you know what I mean? And it's all because of the television in our houses. But anyway, we're
Live
talking about the
vision.
Dow today before we turn this into a whole thing. But we'll talk about cults again in the future. It's just interesting because it all has to do with psychology and human behavior. And, like I said,
Absolutely.
we're all part of a cult at the end of the day. We're all part of one cult or another. So it's just
Yes.
about like learning, it's a whole learning experience. So that's what I say. All right. So let's see. We're talking about the Dow versus 23 and 24 today. So let me pull those up. It's a nice little segue. Speaking of cults, it's the cult of the Dow. All right, I'm gonna fast forward ahead here. I like doing this. People get if they just look at it while I scroll, like subconsciously, they get to watch it all. Right? We should
Yeah.
make videos of that where we just scroll through books or whatever it is, so people can like.
Ooh. There
I
are
think,
people who have photographic memory, right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I think everybody at some level or another will still process it. They just might
Yes.
consciously process it.
Right.
We'll have to try it. All right, so we're at verse 23 today. So, what we do, if you're new to this, we've been breaking down the Tao now for quite some time. We're on verse 23 and 24 today, and we actually have a whole playlist on YouTube, so you can go, excuse me, and listen to all of that. What happens is we take turns reading through, and then we go back and break it down. So, this version is from 1988, the Stephen Mitchell version. Express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao, and you can embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place.
Mm, love it.
Yeah.
Dwight Goddard, verse 23. Emptiness and not doing. Wu Wei. That is the title. Taciturnity, which I looked up, it means the state or quality of being reserved or reticent in conversation. So being reserved. Taciturnity is natural to man. A whirlwind never outlasts the morning, nor a violent rain the day. What is the cause? Is it heaven and earth? If even heaven and earth are not constant, much less can man be. Therefore, he who pursues his affairs in the spirit of the Tao will become Tao-like. He who pursues his affairs with day will become day-like. He who pursues his affairs with loss identifies himself with loss. He who identifies himself with Tao, Tao rejoices to guide. He who identifies himself with day, day rejoices to reward. And he who identifies himself with loss, loss rejoices to ruin. If his faith fail, he will receive no reward of faith.
Oh, I like that. All right, here we go. So our other two versions. The next version is Stan Rosenthal's version from 1984. It's titled Accepting the Irrevocable. Nature's way is to say but little. High winds are made still with the turn of the tide, and rarely last all morning, nor heavy rain all day. Therefore, when talking, remember also to be silent and still. He who follows the natural way is always one with the Tao. He who is virtuous may experience virtue, whilst he who loses the natural way is easily lost himself. He who is at one with the Tao is at one with nature, and virtue always exists for he who has virtue. To accept the irrevocable is to let go of desire. He who does not have trust in others should not himself be trusted. Oh, I like just that last part.
Wow. Indeed. And that one sounded a lot like Dwight Goddard's a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
All right. Aleister Crowley calls this the void of naught. To keep silence is the mark of one who is acting in full accordance with his will. A fierce wind soon falleth. A storm shower doth not last all day. Yet heaven and earth cause these, and if they fail to make violence continue, how much less can man abide in spasm of passion? With him that devoteth him to Tao, the devotees of Tao are in accord. So also are the devotees of day. Lots of tongue twisting there. Yea, even they who fall in seeking those are in accord. So then his brothers in the Tao are joyful, attaining it, and his brothers in the day are joyful, attaining it. And they who fail in seeking these are joyful, partaking of it. But if he himself realize not the Tao with calm of confidence, then they also appear lacking in confidence. All right, that's going to take some digging into.
Interesting. I see how there is kind of a this theme with the rain not lasting all day seems to be going through all of them. It's pretty cool, the
Yeah.
rainstorm.
Yeah.
I like, except I mean, talk to Noah, he might disagree.
I was going to say, what about the vapor canopy in that day?
Yeah.
How long did that last?
That's why it's good that some of them say not usually, right? They're like
Oh,
not
yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
All right. So
And what about people who live in places like London or Oregon where it's always raining or raining a lot?
yeah, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, it does say storm. But I do
Okay.
like the way Steve Mitchell, so it's a little different because so I'll just read the first part. I guess we can go through and read each. Want to read the first two parts, or you just want to read the first and then
Let's see. What does it look like? It's broken down. I mean, yeah, that's fine. We can read how does it flow better? The first two?
yeah, I think so because the
Okay.
end is kind of like a conclusion.
Yeah.
So it'll work out good. Okay, express yourself completely, then keep quiet. Be like the forces of nature. When it blows, there is only wind. When it rains, there is only rain. When the clouds pass, the sun shines through. When I first heard this, I was like, that's bullshit. I've been in rain, windy rainstorms before, but I know what he means. If you
It
open
means it's
yourself to,
temporary, right? It won't
yeah,
last forever. But go ahead.
yeah, exactly. And it's only, so basically it's like you don't have to worry. Oops, I almost muted my audio. You don't have to worry about other things when you're dealing with one thing. It's like take one thing at a time or take things as they come, basically,
Hmm.
and you don't have to worry that when you're in the thick of it, you know that it's going to end, right? They're all cycles. So that's what I like about that's this verse, especially the way he wrote it and translated it. If you open yourself to the Tao, you are at one with the Tao. If you can embody it completely,
And you.
oh, and yeah, and you embody it completely. If you open yourself to insight, you are at one with insight, and you can use it completely. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss, and you can accept it completely. Now, this last part with the loss is a little different,
Right.
because
But
I want to go ahead.
Dwight says lost too. Go ahead.
Yes, he does. But he says he who pursues his affairs with loss identifies himself with loss. But it looks like it's more of like you don't want to do that, right? And that's when I first heard this. That's what I kind of thought. If you open yourself to loss, you are at one with loss. But then he adds in, and you can accept it completely, which I think is nice. He goes a little step further, and it's like, oh, it's not a bad thing. It's just another
Thing
example.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Um, and he also repeats everything.
Yeah.
Like
There's a
he
lot of
says the Tao
repetition.
twice, and then he says insight twice, loss twice, and then completely. So it's kind of like a pattern
Hmm.
that's going on. Like,
Repetition helps you remember things. So it's like it's just trying to drive the point home.
yeah, Tao completely, insight completely, loss completely.
Yes. Well, do you have any more to say on this one?
No, I think we could refer back to it, but I think we
Okay.
should go further on it.
So before I read Dwight Goddard, I'm just gonna say, as I was reading these, they kind of like it's similar to previous verses we've talked about. They kind of go in a little bit different directions sometimes. So it's hard for me to kind of break it into like three pieces to break it down. So we'll see. We'll just go along with how I broke it down and see if that works.
All right.
All right. Taciturnity, which was like being in a state of being reserved. So being reserved, sorry. Taciturnity is natural to man. A whirlwind never outlasts the morning, nor a violent rain the day. What is the cause? It is heaven and earth. If even heaven and earth are not constant, much less can man be. Yeah, so I think there he's just talking about um, you know, what is that saying that says like the only constant is change, or the only
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
is that everything's always changing. So I think that's basically what he's trying to say there. But when he
I like how
says
he's using nature as a guide too.
yeah, yes. Um Taciturnity is natural to man, being reserved. So what do you think he means by that?
Um, that's a good question. I think he's trying to say that it's a natural state of man to be calm or chilled out, and then
Or to be in
so
a state of being of observing, of witnessing versus
yeah,
responding and reacting.
yeah, 100%. And then so he's saying that that's the natural is natural to man, and he goes from man into nature, and he's like, okay, here a whirlwind never outlasts the morning, nor a violent rain the day. What is the cause? Is heaven and earth. And so he's saying if even heaven and earth are not constant, much less can man be, right? So maybe it's natural for man to be taciturnus, but there are cycles that we go through. So there's going to be upheaval or change or whatever, but you always have to remember that it's not going to outlast it. You could outlast it.
Yeah, it's not permanent.
Yeah.
And if you have a moment where you have an outburst and you get angry or you get upset, that's also not going to last forever. If you feel in your life that someone has hurt you and, you know, it hurt your feelings and you're very upset and hurt and wounded by that, that won't last forever either. Um, I think that's also what he's trying to say with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like time heals all wounds type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. All right. I should have brought us in
And
quick.
I'll just finish the second half, or
All right.
sorry, the next piece. Therefore, he who pursues his affairs in the spirit of Tao will become Tao like. He who pursues his affairs with day will become day like. He who pursues his affairs with loss identifies himself with loss. So, Tao like would be like the Tao is called the way, but there are many other um, things that the Tao. It's just like God, right? You can't express God in like a few words. So I would say if it makes more sense to you, you could say in the spirit of God, you'll become godlike, maybe, right? Like he who pursues his affairs with day, which is virtue, just one word to describe that word in Chinese, will become virtue like. So it's that reminds me of the golden rule.
Yeah, and another way you can look at that, I mean, that's great, 100%. But even if you say you didn't want to say God, right? So you could say, therefore, he who pursues his affairs in the spirit of the way will become like the way. So they'll flow more with everything that's going on, and have a better time at it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Oops, I didn't put
Yeah.
my phone on silent. You didn't hear that, did you?
Speaking of flow, we next week's episode is gonna talk about the flow state and things like that.
Yes. Yeah,
So
that's a good one, guys. You definitely want to see that one. All right. And then the part about loss, he who pursues his affairs with loss identifies himself with loss. So I think also there's kind of a hidden
mm-hmm.
message here telling you, like, mind, whatever you focus on, where your attention goes, your energy flows type,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good
Yeah,
lesson.
absolutely. Because if you're constantly in a state of depression or sadness and grief because you lost something or someone, that's your identity, you know, that's what you will become, that's what you will attract. Um, so, and you don't have to. I like I like how both guys did it. But it's not, yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with where you place your attention. And a lot of people, we're running off these programs. So when things happen to us, we have an automatic response, like you were talking about earlier, right? With the response or the witness, you can either witness and accept, or you can have a response.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize that that's actually a choice you can make in your life. So you could choose to focus on different things. Everyone has bad things that happen in their life. But and it's not like you should just ignore the bad things when they happen or whatever, but it's all about having perspective, right? It's not like, oh, only this bad thing is happening to me right now. No, there's a lot of things happening right now. It's just what we choose to focus on and make the center of our attention. And as we do it, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
where we just focus on it and then it becomes more important and then it's worse. And then the more we focus on it, the more it affects everything, and it probably can cause a string of other negative things to happen too in your life.
It's like you create your own reality.
Yeah, could it be?
Would it be?
What a novel idea, I tell you. Okay. There's nothing new under the sun, I will say, though. All right. So, Stan Rosenthal from the notorious year of 1984, accepting the irrevocable. Nature's way is to say but little. High winds are made still with the turn of the tide. and rarely last all morning, nor heavy rain all day. Therefore, when talking, remember also to be silent and still. That
Mm,
is a little bit of a conundrum. Um, what's
yeah.
the word? Yeah, it's like so it's like remember to when you're talking to be silent and still. It's like, well, how can I be silent if I'm talking? And maybe it could be on one level where they are talking about inside. So like in your mind, when you're talking to people or giving a presentation or whatever doing, it's like be quiet and still inside your mind.
Mm,
So you don't get confused or lose your train of thought or have jumbled or chopped up words. It's like flow state, right? It's like be in
hmm.
the flow state.
Oh, yes, yes. I was thinking it also could be um when talking, remember also to be silent and still. Um, just in the, how people feel sometimes they have to say something because they have to save somebody from something. And so if someone starts a conversation and is very triggered by a certain thing, and you know things, those who speak don't know and those who know don't speak. So perhaps when you're talking to them, remember to be silent and still. Well, stillness would just be, don't go crazy in responding to them. And silent, maybe you don't have to address the very thing that they're talking about in a provocative, pokey way that's going to trigger them more. But you could be silent about that and maybe speak about something else, or speak to it but with an air of compassion and understanding, and um explaining perhaps, but not getting riled up about it.
Yeah, 100%. It's you're silent. I mean, you're still talking, but you're silent on the issue, right? You're not
Mm-hmm.
like
Right.
weighing in on the issue. I like it.
Exactly.
Also, another way you could,
I feel like we do that a lot.
yeah, yeah. I was doing that the other day. Where was I when I got into it? Oh, I was at this Indian restaurant around here that we go to, and the place has been in business since like the 90s or something. And there's a son that's the waiter now that works there, and he's in college, and he's Indian, but he grew up here. He's from the Punjab region. They're from the Punjab region. So
Mm.
he's not they're not Hindi, they're Sikh.
Oh,
But
Sikh. Yeah, I was gonna say Sikh.
yeah, they do have a bunch of stuff from like the Bhagavad Gita, a bunch of paintings and like artwork
Oh,
and stuff.
nice. They
So we've
wear
talked about that.
turbans, and they wear bangles. I don't have
Hmm.
mine on right now, but Cody gave me a bangle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
Sikh
so
bangle.
yeah, those are yeah, I know what you're talking about. Those are awesome. I've been to a Sikh wedding actually, or half
Oh,
Sikh. My
nice.
yeah. So it's funny that their name is Sikh. It's like, what do you do? I seek, right? It's great. It's like it's just in the title. I
Yeah, I
seek the
always
truth.
thought that.
Uh,
But actually, it's pronounced sick. So when
oh
I
yeah,
was in
right,
college, I
right.
knew some people, and they were like, "It's not Sikh, it's sick." So that's even makes it even more interesting.
Yeah. What are you sick with? Maybe you need an experimental medical serum. Yeah. So when I was when I go there, we talk about things like that, and he's just in college and stuff. So we were just there the other night, and he was asking us about meditation. He's like, "Oh, do you meditate?" And he's like, "I think I should start meditating." So we started talking about that and just different things with like the new age movement and spirituality. But I was just being trying to be very careful about where I was going with certain things. But
Hmm.
yeah, exactly. So I was trying to be silent, not rile too many feathers. But I think also though it could mean when you're having a conversation, remember at times to be still and silent. So like let the other person talk and listen and
Hmm.
observe.
Yeah, Robo Honky said, "Could it also mean to listen or to be still in your emotions?" And I said, "Yes, absolutely."
Yeah, exactly. And Chris QSB said it's easy to fall into a feedback loop of despair. Oh, he probably meant of despair. Yeah.
Oh, of despair. Yes, yes, good call. I was like, I don't understand that. He might be using a voice to
Architects,
text.
yeah.
Yeah.
100% though.
Yes.
It's like a negative spiral downward.
Hmm.
All righty, Rooney. Let's get back into this. And where was he? I
The
was
second one,
okay.
the second piece.
He who follows the natural way is always one with the Tao. He who is virtuous may experience virtue, whilst he who loses the natural way is easily lost himself. I like this.
Mm.
It's very short and succinct. It's like right to the point. And right here, he's just comparing nature and the Tao, right? So that follows the natural way, nature, netter, as Mark Passio would say.
Oh, I
And if
didn't
you
know
follow
that.
that way, you're always that one with the Tao. So it's like interchangeable words. And then he who is virtuous may experience virtue, whilst he who loses the natural way is easily lost himself. So it's like you easily get lost in thought, you easily get lost in life, in what's going on, because you lost the natural way of things.
Yeah. What it makes me think of is a Bible scripture verse. Um, Let me see. Let's see. Where did it say? He who follows the natural
Say
way is always
inverted.
one with the Tao. To him who has be given more. I'm just trying to see what the verse is in the Bible. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Matthew 13:12 says, whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. It's like that spiral. It's a spiral up and a spiral down. So the spiral up is whoever has will be given more. So if you have joy, if and you see the bright side of life, you'll be given more of that. But if you're negative and you're always trying to find the worst thing in the situation, in like skeptical in a negative way, you'll be given proof of that. You'll be driven more into more despair and more anger and depression and whatnot.
It's just like Ghostbusters at the end of the original movie when they're facing the bad guy and he's like, choose your destroyer or whatever. And he's like, just they're all like, keep your minds clear, keep your minds
Yeah,
clear.
yeah.
He just thinks of the State Puff Marshmallow Man and that's what appears.
The
It's that thing.
same.
He was a bad master of his mind. He couldn't not keep a giant marshmallow out of his head. And it
Yes.
happened, right? It's so
It's
funny. He
funny.
manifested it literally.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Dan Aykroyd. All right. Yeah, and the other thing I was gonna say too is is this the right verse? Yeah, is
We were on Stan Rosenthal, but did you want to look at the ones before it?
oh yeah, I must have scrolled up. My bad. Here we go. He who follows okay, so he who loses the natural way is easily lost himself. So it's in the beginning, it's he who follows the natural way. So really, it's just you could look at it as inversion. Like if you follow the natural way, you're in following the way of nature. But if you lose it, you're just following the inverted way. So you're easily inverted yourself,
Yeah.
right? And inversion is just like what we see out, in society. A lot of these concepts and ideas.
Um, you know what it makes me think of, and we can go back to us for a second here. Um, it made me think of the word lost and how in most Christian circles that terminology has a final effect to it. Like you're damned, you're lost. You can't be saved, you can't possibly saved. But it simply means you've lost your way. You were on this path and then you kind of fell by the wayside and you missed a turn and you lost your way. It's not permanent. Like the earlier parts of the verse were saying, it's not permanent. Everything is temporary. Things always change. So that's what that made me think of just now.
Yeah, and what do you do? Or what are you supposed to do when you get lost in the woods when you're hiking? turn around and go back the exact way you came until you find the trail.
Yes.
Because people try to run forward, they get panicked, they think because of the woods, it's like, oh wait, this looks like the same area I just was, especially when you got
I
that adrenaline
know.
running. But it's the same way in life. Sometimes if you feel yourself lost, it's just like backtrack. Where did I become lost? When did I come fall off the path? And sometimes we have to do that. But yeah, you're right. It's not like a permanent thing because nothing's permanent, right? Except change. So
Mhm.
if you're lost, eventually you're going to get found. And if you know where you are, eventually you're going to get lost. And then you just got to find your way back. It's like part of it's kind of how they say the journey is the destination. It's like the journey is
The
the whole
best
thing.
part.
People
Yeah.
focus on the end goal. It's like when we come across some of these ideas, even with the Tao, you're like, oh, I want to model my life that way. And we talked about this with Christopher Gardner. You guys will see this next Thursday. I want to model my life this way because it's a great way to be, but then you keep falling short. So then you get hard on yourself, and then you punish yourself, and then you get that negative feedback loop going because you feel bad. Then you're going to maybe take it out on this, and then you're going to feel bad about what you did. And then you're going to do this behavior, and then you're going to feel bad about the behavior. It's just like an vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
100%. And again, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the negative or bad parts of it. It's just that you can realize with this verse, you can realize, hey, it's not going to last forever. And, uh, you know, I forgot the
It
second.
just is. It just happened and you can move
It
on.
is. Yeah, it just
It
is
just is.
give
Well,
them.
Aleister Crowley,
Sorry.
huh?
I just said give them the isness instead of give them the business.
Oh, okay.
It was
All right. It was a what?
a pun.
Oh, okay. That I didn't get. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
All right. Well,
hang on,
let's see.
I'll bring it back
Dissident
to us.
Jones.
Oh,
Okay.
go ahead, go ahead. You could say, I was just gonna say I'll bring back to us. I wasn't laughing at you because you didn't get it, Sharon. I was
Oh
laughing at
yeah, no, I get. I'm
silly
not
day.
offended.
Because you know how people
So
say is and like isness and like what is, but I was like, give him the isness instead of give him the business. Anyway, okay.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the what is from Billy Clinton.
Yeah, that too.
Is that where you're getting
What
that
does
from?
is mean? Well, sometimes with spiritual people, when they're talking about the present moment and like what is and what isn't, they'll be like isness and like presenceness and like they make up all these words. So that's what I was going for. But
Yeah,
I do
yeah, yeah.
know the Clinton thing. What is the definition of is?
Right? Is that what it was?
What do you mean by is? Yeah, it's like what?
My,
Did you say
all
somebody
right.
said something in the chat?
Oh yeah, I was Dissident Jones.
Oh, the goal of the destination changes along the journey. Anywho, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Everyone gets covered in a white goo at the end. All right.
Yeah, of the movie with a
Oh,
Stay Puffed.
right. Yeah. Ghostbusters. Yeah, it's crazy.
Aw,
The great thing
thanks,
about Hollywood.
RV Nez. I don't know how to say your name.
Oh yeah,
I'll call him Beats.
Revnez beats. Thanks, man. If you focus on negative things, you will manifest negative energy. The same as true on focusing on the positive. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. So that's why sometimes people say fake it till you make it. Because if you just continue to say the positive things, your subconscious will hear that. That's why I think Bruce Lee said, like, don't ever say anything negative about yourself, even jokingly, because your subconscious or whatever that is doesn't know the difference of you joking or not. It just hears the words. So, like, I don't like when I hear people say, like, I'm XYZ with words like stupid or dumb or retarded or like, no, speak positively of yourself. And if you have the thought of saying that you're going to speak negatively, just don't speak at all. I mean, you can
Stay
go like,
silent and still. Yeah, yeah.
darn it. But like, don't say anything bad about yourself because that'll just continue the spiral downward, I think.
100%. And if you do say something bad about yourself, don't get discouraged about it and don't be hard
Yeah.
on yourself. Just be like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm just retarded. Oh, wait, no. Hey, fuck, I'm retarded. Ah, damn it. No.
Yeah. Say, no, I'm not. I'm beautiful. I'm smart. I'm great. I'm awesome.
Exactly.
Reverse it. Turn around.
Yeah, it's funny because I do that a lot when I'm talking to people like in conversation now about certain things like DJing or whatever it is, and I'll just be like, yeah, I'm like, listen, I'm just gonna say it. I fucking know what I'm doing. I could blow up the party, like we're gonna have a good time, and I tell people like I'm not being cocky, I'm just stating facts. It's like we say enough bad things about ourselves. I'm just gonna tell you what
How it
is
is.
how it is, the isness,
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you the isness about it.
what it is. All right, let's
Yeah.
hear what
So
Aleister Crowley has to say.
okay, here we go. Some people say Crowley, some people say Crowley. I
Some
find
people
my
say
saying
Ravenly.
ah, I think I mostly say Crowley, and it might be because I used to watch that show Downton Abbey,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and
I think I
that
say it
was
both ways, like whatever
I
I
do
think.
too. I think I
Yeah,
say it both ways sometimes. It just
yeah.
like whatever comes out.
Crowley, but
Yeah,
Crowley is cool because it's got crow in it.
it's got the word crow.
So
Yes,
it's
like a
probably what's name.
raven, like a
His name is
crow.
probably like Joe Johnson or something. No one's gonna be scared of Joe Johnson. You got to change your name, Joe. Come on, we got to get like
Yeah,
Alistair and spell it all
make it.
funny so people don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like it until this episode. Sorry, until this series began, I would always not know how to spell Alistair's first name. And maybe I've forgotten already, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I've looked at it so many times that but anyway, yeah. Um, after a while I was like, okay, yeah, it's Alei. Because sometimes I was like, is it IE or EI?
EA. Yeah, no, it's crazy. All right, here we
All
go.
right.
There it is. It's right there.
Without further ado, Aleister Crowley entitles verse 23, The Void of Naught. To keep silence is the mark of one who is acting in full accordance with his will. And when he says this, I'm assuming, me personally, I'm thinking he's talking about like the true will, the will of the deep, or shall I say the divine within, like the all,
Higher self.
yeah, the higher self. Or dare I say, like the Holy Spirit within you, or the great consciousness that guides us all. All right. A fierce wind soon falleth, a storm shower doth not last all day. I feel like I'm reading Shakespeare. So,
Yeah.
and the King James at the same version at the same time. So, yeah. So a fierce wind soon falleth. It doesn't last forever. A storm shower doesn't last all day. All right. Yet heaven and earth cause these, and if they fail to make violence continue, how much less can man abide in spasm of passion? So yeah, and he's basically saying what some of the other verses say. I think he's more closely saying it like, who else said something kind of like that? I feel like it's Dwight Goddard. No, where is it? I don't know. Maybe I read it because I read it before. Maybe
All
it
right.
sounds familiar because I read it from him before.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's possible, right?
Yeah.
Um, all right. All right, I'm back. Yeah, I like so what was I gonna say? Oh, I like how he says how much less can man abide in spasm of passion. So it's like um
How long can you just go be in a state of like craziness and absolute insanity?
exactly because it's
It
like as
doesn't
above, so
last.
below, right? That's what I want to
Yes.
say because the heaven and earth
Yes.
as above, so below. You're just like a microcosm to everything that's going on. Maybe you have little consciousnesses inside you that are worried about getting fired and but yeah, I think it's like the cycles really is what I was going to say.
Yeah. PK in the chat says passion is suffering. The etymology of passion is interesting. Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't know that. Passion means suffering. I guess, yeah, because I mean, I guess I did, but I'd forgotten because of, the passion of the Christ, right? Which is like
Yeah.
I guess the suffering.
Oh,
Um,
so that makes sense. Yeah. How much less
yeah,
can about okay. So if we're talking about suffering, then that makes perfect sense. See, we have the best viewers. Thank you so much, PK. That's why we
right.
like to do these live too when we can, because especially with all these words and meanings and all this stuff, our audience and people who watch this have a really good occult knowledge of different things or whatever. So,
Yeah. QSB Chris says the spirit realm does not understand sarcasm.
yeah. Yeah, because you're still saying the words, right? It's like a spell.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
it's like, oh yeah, I guess we're just gonna wear these things on our faces for the rest of our lives. Huh? It's so silly. But then people do it anyway. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, all these things are but temporary.
This too shall pass.
Yes, this too shall pass.
All right. So I'll go back up to the top here. We'll read the last part. Open yourself to the Tao, then trust your natural responses, and everything will fall into place. And this is kind of just like a summary of the verse, right? Like in conclusion, if you open yourself to
Mhm.
the Tao, ladies and gentlemen, then
That's
trust
the
your natural
flow
responses.
state.
Yeah, everything will fall into place. Exactly.
Flow state. Be lived. I think somewhere in the Tao it probably says it, or I've heard it somewhere, to just allow yourself to be lived through, like allow the spirit to live through you, the spirit of God, the Holy Spirit within you, allow it to live through you.
An analogy comes to mind. I'm just trying to think of a good example, but it's kind of like when you're going to do something for the first time. I guess a good example would be me, like as a wedding DJ, right? Because I DJ so many weddings. So normally, the bride and groom, it's their first time, or whatever. They're not as familiar with weddings, so a lot of times they'll trust me because I've been to so many, or
Mhm.
I'll just tell them, "Listen, trust me, I know." And other times I might have fought with people about something, or they might have disagreed and wanted to do something differently. And then when it came to the time to do it or whatever it was, everything just went wrong, or it was like harder, or something just didn't work out right. And then they'll come up to me and be like, "Oh, we should have did it the way that you said." So
Mhm.
it's the same kind of thing. It's just with life, right? The Tao is just telling you to listen to your instincts, listen to nature, listen to your intuition, and kind of just go with the flow. Not that you
Yeah.
have to, you can learn the hard way. That's fine. And hopefully, by learning through the hard way, you actually will learn and won't repeat the cycle. But yeah,
Yes.
same kind of thing. All right.
Yes.
Let's get to, I want to read the bottom of the Dwight Goddard version.
Mm-hmm. The last piece of the Dwight Goddard verse 23 says, "He who identifies himself with Tao, Tao rejoices to guide. He who identifies himself with Day, Day rejoices to reward. And he who identifies himself with loss, loss rejoices to ruin. If his faith fail, he will receive no reward of faith." I feel like Dwight Goddard's is very poetic. I don't know. This verse is super poetic. Um, he's he doesn't use certain like he says if his faith fail, like instead of like if his faith would fail or were to fail, or he's just like if faith fail.
He's also
um,
anthropomorphizing the Tao and the day and faith by saying, he who identifies himself with Tao, Tao rejoices to guide. So it means like the Tao is rejoicing by
mm-hmm,
guiding you. He who
mm-hmm,
identifies himself with day, day is rejoicing by rewarding you, right? It's the
mm-hmm.
same kind of
Yeah, I like
same
that
thing.
perspective.
Loss rejoices by ruining you.
Oh wow. Yeah, good one. Yeah, and so it kind of points back to the loss above that he talks about. He's just going back, he's just reiterating what he said above, but in a different way.
Yeah, that's what I feel like this part in the last two verses anyway, or the Steve Mitchell version and the Dwight Goddard version. the end part here is kind of like a wrap up, like a
Yeah.
conclusion. I like that though, because it helps you bring it home.
Right. And then so this last piece, if his faith fail, he will receive no reward of faith. It's just like the Bible verse I just read, Matthew 13:12. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. So if you have no faith, you won't get more faith because you have none. How do you expect to get something from nothing?
And you'll lose what you do have, right?
Mm-hmm. If there's even a hint of it.
Because you're on that downward spiral. All
It
right.
doesn't mean that you can't climb back up out of the spiral. So
Yeah,
that's the good part.
exactly.
That's the constant change, right?
Exactly. That's what they're telling you in the beginning, right? So don't worry when it's raining. It's going to be sunny. Unless you live in Seattle, then I don't know. He who is at one with the Tao is at, so I'm going to read the last part from the Stan Rosenthal 1984 version. He who is at one with the Tao is at one with nature. And virtue always exists for he who has virtue. To accept the irrevocable, is to let go of desire. He who does not have trust in others should not be trusted. So, part by part here, if we're going to look at it, it's basically saying what a lot of them, the other ones are saying, just comparing it to nature. Same thing with virtue. If you have it, uh, and always exists, let's see, is that one with nature and virtue always exists for he who has virtue. So if you have it, just like the Bible verse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to accept the
Evocable.
irrevocable. So if you're accepting the irrevocable, that means you're letting go of desire. Because what is desire? Basically, at the end of the day, desire is feeling that you have for things to be different other than they are, right? You desire it to be a nice, warm, sunny day when it's December, and we all know it's probably going to be in the 30s out there in Connecticut at least. But what if I desired it to be 70 and I got all upset and mad about it? Well, I don't have to. I could just wait a few months and it changes. But yeah, I think that's the key here because you're accepting the irrevocable. So irrevocable is like unmutable, right? It's
Unable to be repealed or annulled, unalterable.
yep, exactly. So if you accept uh what is true and it basically just means the truth, right? The
Yeah,
law.
what cannot be annulled, what cannot be altered.
Yeah. So if you accept that, it means you're letting go of desire. It's crazy how they
It makes you think.
yeah, it really does. He's using this analogy. And then he who doesn't have trust in others should not himself be trusted. So true though. It's the same thing, right? And they're just hitting it from three different angles. I love it.
Yeah,
Let me
nice.
bring up the Crowley version.
Crowley.
Crowley.
All right. Verse 23, Aleister Crowley, the last piece. With him that devoteth him to Tao. See, it's like, okay. Okay, Shakespeare. I need to know how to pronounce this.
Devotees. You could say devotees. I've heard it that way before.
Okay. Is it?
Devotee or devotee.
Ah, devotee.
Devotee. Yeah, you could say devotee too.
I thought it was te, but
Day.
okay. Devotees. All right. With him that devoteth him to Tao. So for the person who devotes himself to the Tao, the devotees of Tao are in accord. So I'm assuming he means like all the others that are, so like it's like the community thing we were talking about, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, so if you devote yourself to the Tao, all the others who also devote themselves to the Tao are in accord with you. That's your community. That's your people. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So also are the devotees of the day, which is virtue of day. Yea, even they who fail in seeking those are in accord. Okay, those, who's he referring to? The
Tao and
devotees
day,
or
I
Tao
believe.
and day? Okay.
Yeah.
Yea, even those who fail in seeking the day or the Tao are in accord. So then his brothers in the Tao are joyful, attaining it, and his brothers in the day are joyful, attaining it. And they who fail in seeking the day and the Tao are joyful, partaking of it. I'll finish. But if he himself realize not the Tao with calm of confidence, then they also appear lacking in confidence. Okay, the theys and these are kind of confusing me. So, what do you think about when he says, yea, even they who fail in seeking those are in accord?
I think he's just trying to say that everybody is part of the Tao. You might not
Yeah,
be going with the
I
flow.
felt like that's what he was trying to say.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can get out of it. I'm trying to think to the brothers and obtaining it. Yeah, even they who fail in seeking those are in accord. Um, so then his brothers in the Tao are joyful attaining it, and his brothers in the day are joyful attaining it. And they who fail in seeking these are joyful partaking of it.
Ah,
Uh,
are like, okay, so like we're all one, right? Because we all came from source, we all came from the divine, we're created by the divine source. We're all brothers and sisters. Whether you're on the way, on the path, and seeking virtue and seeking the way, or whether you're not, we're all still one big happy family. Um, and if those of us who are seeking the day and the Tao are doing so, our fruits will be shown to the world, and that is how they will see, our brothers who do not seek the Tao. They will be joyful anyway because they see the goodness come from us who are seeking the Tao. That's what I take from that.
yeah, I like that. And then it also kind of tells me about like non-judgment, right? It's like they who fail in seeking these are joyful. So people still joyful partaking of it. And I like how it says attaining it. So the first group of people are attaining the way, the second are attaining virtue,
Mm-hmm.
and the last are partaking of both the way and virtue. So
Through us who are seeking it.
through us, or even just in their own way by going
Yeah.
out and doing
Nature.
what they got to do till it's done, right? They're still
Mm-hmm.
gonna be part of the Tao in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just gonna instead of attaining it though, they're partaking. Does that make sense? So they're like part of
Yeah.
the whole world, I guess, that's going on. It's like be in the world, not of it. These people are being of the world, or they're in the world
Yeah.
and they're of it, right?
And they're partaking of it. They're just enjoying life too. They're doing the things um that people do. They're going out and, having drinks with their friends and eating and having social experiences with their friends and their families, and they're enjoying that. They're partaking of that. And those are just things that are part of being who we are, these 3D beings in this 3D reality.
Exactly. I'm
You're
typing
so
in the
stupid.
chat, but I typed Aleister wrong. Did I do it right that time?
Aleister Crow 777.
Aleister Crow 777 is how I say it. uh,
Oh, that's silly.
yeah, I like it. This, speaking of Crowley, the end of this, because it's or this part, it's a little confusing, right? You really have to kind
Mm-hmm.
of think about it, and maybe just means different things to different people, like a parable. Like wherever you're at right now, that's where you need to see it. And you'll get out of it
Mm-hmm.
what you need. But he
Mm-hmm.
himself realized but if he himself realized not the Tao with calm of confidence, then they also appear lacking in confidence.
This is where I need to think a little bit.
So if you're not accepting the way, basically calmly chilling, just going down, going with the
Going
flow of
with the
things,
flow.
you could see it, right? You also appear lacking in confidence. So it
Mm,
means you're not going to have confidence. You might have fear, anxiety, right?
yeah.
The future or the past.
Yeah. And like we said before, it's just, it's all part of the plan, and it is a cycle, and things will change. So it's not permanent. It's
Right.
temporary. And I meant to say that, I think, when we were reading that part that says, how much less can man abide in spasm of passion? Because, you go back to the beginning of the verse, and not necessarily Aleister Crowley's, but maybe Dwight Goddard's, about taciturnity is natural to man. You just go back to the peaceful state. You can't always be in this fit of rage and passion. It's not 100%
Sustainable. Yeah.
continue. Yeah, it's not, definitely not sustainable for sure.
So true. It's the cycles. It's like that song, Everything Turn, Turn. Speaking of turning, let's turn to verse 24. All right. So we have verse 24, Stephen Mitchell from 1988. And this is episode 88, everybody. So look at that synchronicity.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there you go.
I really like this verse. Oh, man, this is great. He who stands on tiptoe doesn't stand firm. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far. He who tries to shine dims his own light. He who defines himself can't know who he really is. Oh, that's
Mm,
we'll get back to it, but that's identification, right? So he who identifies himself can't know who he really is. He who has power over others can't empower himself.
mm.
He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures. If you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job, then let go. That's what it should say in the Tao. If you
Wow.
want to accord with the Tao, just do your job and then let go.
Wow. There's
Nice
a
short verse.
ton to say here. Sorry, we're first reading through them. We'll talk about them
Yeah, I
later.
almost did too.
All right. Dwight Goddard entitles verse 24, Troubles and Merit. It is not natural to stand on tiptoe, or being astride, one does not walk. One who displays himself is not bright, or one who asserts himself cannot shine. A self-approving man has no merit, nor does one who praises himself grow. The relation of these things, and then in parentheses it says self-display, self-assertion, self-approval, end parentheses. So I'll read it without the parentheses. To relation of these things to Tao, the relation of these things to Tao is the same as awful, I think it's pronounced that way, is to food. They are excrescence. Oh my freaking goodness. Excrescences from the system. I think it's like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
something that is excreted from the system, I'm going to say. They are detestable. Tao does not dwell in them. And I'm just going to just quickly say that the word OFFAL, awful, is like organ meats and stuff like that, if anybody wanted to know.
I get it.
Next
Oh,
verse.
that's why
Oh, wow.
excrescence is there. So they're the
Yeah.
organs in the body that do the excretion and stuff like that.
Oh, good call.
Interesting.
That's probably what it is. For whatever reason, I didn't look that one up, but I will now while you read if you want.
I'll get this set and then yeah, I could read the next one. This is wow, look at this. Stan Rosenthal being short, not the shortest, but
It's not what
he,
we thought. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, okay. He who stretches beyond his natural reach does not stand firmly upon the ground. just as he who travels at a speed beyond his means cannot maintain his pace. He who boasts is not enlightened, and he who is self-righteous does not gain respect from those who are meritors.
Meritus?
Meritus. Hang on, I think I'm gonna sneeze. Nope, am I good? Yeah, I'm good. Okay.
Oh.
Thus he gains nothing and will fall into disrepute. Since striving, boasting, and self-righteousness are all unnecessary traits, the sage considers them excess and has no need of them.
Indeed. Now, Aleister, go ahead.
I just said indeed, indeed.
Indeed. Aleister Crowley entitles verse 24, evil manners. He who standeth a tiptoe standeth not firm. He who maketh rigid his legs walketh ill. He who preeneth himself shineth not. He who talketh positively is vulgar. He who boasteth is refused acceptance. And he who is wise in his own conceit is thought inferior. Such attitudes to him that hath the view given by understanding the Tao seem like garbage or like cancer, abhorrent to all. They then who follow the way do not admit them. All right.
Garbage. You're straight garbage. Tell them how you feel, Alistair. Right.
Garbage.
Garbage. Garbage.
Knowledge. Right. Passage. Have you ever heard that accent where they, instead of saying like knowledge, they'll say knowledge?
Knowledge.
Yeah.
Probably. Sounds kind of familiar.
You've probably heard it. You just didn't notice it.
I just don't remember. All right. So let me pull this back up. It does kind of sound familiar.
It's I'm accentuating it. It's not that. People don't say it that heavily or strongly.
My liege lady. My knowledge lady. All right. Like a liege, medieval stuff. Anyway, so Stephen Mitchell will read the first part. He who stands on tiptoe doesn't stand firm. And there's a lot of contradictions here, which I really like. Yes. Well, I guess tiptoe doesn't stand firm, doesn't really. But like he who rushes ahead doesn't go far. So you would think like it's like the tortoise and the hare.
It's like a paradox type thing, right?
Yeah, paradox. And it's like the tortoise and the hare. He who rushes ahead doesn't go far, right? The hare, the rabbit. He who tries to shine dims his own light. He who defines himself can't know who he really is. Now, these two parts, he who tries to shine dims his own light. It's kind of like someone who brags or is boastful, whatever, right? You end up looking bad. You think you're trying to do something to be your own hype man, but you're actually turning people off because you're so like full of yourself or whatever. And then the part about he who defines himself can't know who he really is. And this is something we're going to be talking about next week. You guys are going to see it with the identification. So it's kind of like somebody who thinks that they're somebody doesn't really know what they are. If you're defining yourself as, hi, I'm Brandon. I'm a 6'5" guy who looks like Jesus is portrayed. And, I have this nice deep voice and I like to go hiking and, all these things. But I'm so much more than that. In fact, I'm so much more, I can't even list what it is or tell you. So why even bother? Right. So, but if I think I'm all these things and I'm identifying with them, then I don't know the rest of me, the true self, the peace of God that I might be. How dare I? Could it be? I did say might be. So yeah, I love that part. And let me bring it back to the share.
What were you just saying when I laughed? What were you saying? It made me think of something. Now I lost my train of thought.
Oh, I just said I was said basically I was talking I was saying how I wasn't making claims. I was just asking questions. I was like, I didn't say am.
About like defining yourself. Yeah.
Or about being like a piece of God. I might be a piece of God. And
okay.
Yeah, because I think it's like part of the divine mystery, really, right? Who we are. So if we think we know who we are and we're sure of it and we define it and write it down and tell everybody, we're missing the boat because we have no idea.
Yeah. Once you finish this, I'll comment on my thoughts on the whole verse or on that piece.
Okay, sounds good. He who has power over others can't empower himself. He who clings to his work will create nothing that endures.
So for me, when I was looking at when you were reading this, I thought to myself, the whole defining self, anymore, like when I'm reading books, like for example, I was reading this book, I think it was called Shadow Work, something like that. And then it would had exercises of like, you could write stuff down. Okay. Like, tell me about yourself. Like, who are you? That sort of thing. I'm just like, I am a creation of a divine source. You know, I'm not like, I am Sharon. I do this. I do that. I was just like, I am like, I'm just
I
like,
am that I am.
I incarnated into this being called Sharon. And so it's like, I can't even, like you said, I can't even define myself because like, I just be,
I'm energy,
I just
man.
am.
Watch me while I'm slowed down, because once I speed up, you won't be able to see me no more.
Yeah. The he who tries to shine dims his own light. It again, because of this whole talk or this whole talk that I've been hearing about cults and online cults and cult leaders and stuff like that, it made me think of that. So people who try to be in that spotlight and try to get all this attention, you know, maybe some people are drawn to it because of a trauma or something in them, some fear in them that has attached themselves to this person. But like most people will see that that person is trying to shine their own light, and it doesn't appeal. It's not appealing. So it made me think of that. And then he who has power over others can't empower himself. It made me think of the MBTI because I've been kind of digging a little bit more into it since Joe was on our show. And there was a section about something about ENTJs, somewhere in some video that I watched, and how like to be in like a leadership position, to use that in a wise way is to learn to not take the power and contain it, like being the container of power, because nothing comes from that. It's better to delegate and to see the how shall I say, just to how other people see how other people I'm lacking the words right now, but anyway, learning to delegate basically, and not having to contain all the power within you, and then basically it's useless in that way. So it reminded me of that. And let's see, he who clings to his work will create nothing.
It's kind of, that part you were just talking about, it reminds me of earlier in the Tao, forget what verse it was, but they were saying how a wise leader, like the best way to lead is to make the people think that you did nothing at all. Like we did it
Exactly.
ourselves. Look, we did it. Good for us, basically. Because yeah, you are empowering others, and this way you're really going to get their trust, and you're going to be able to, even if so, say you are put ahead of them, right, for some reason, whatever, at work, or who knows, you're elected leader. If you're sharing the power, oversharing the power, then they're going to respect you
Ooh,
more and things are going to get done better, right?
I love that. Oversharing the power. I love that.
I've got the power. And that's why it's good to study this things like the MTBI, because if you could,
MBTI.
or MBTI, Myers-Briggs, because if you could work better with people, then everything's going to flow so much better, right? You're not going to be like this tyrant over them. You know how people work, and you don't have to take things personally, and therefore it all works around you. You're like the linchpin of the whole thing, right? You're the fulcrum of all the stuff that's going on. You're kind of in the middle of it
Mm-hmm.
in
Yeah.
that way.
And then the
Cool.
last piece, it says, he who clings to his work will create nothing that endures. That's like attachment, right? You're just clinging so much to something that will save you or that will be your thing, and doing that with anything, is a bad idea.
And if you think about the other verses in the Tao, it's like do your work and then forget about it. It's kind of like that whole thing too. Don't be attached to the outcome of your work. Just do your work, do your dharma, and don't be attached to what happens. Just do your best and keep
Mm-hmm.
moving, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
if something goes wrong, you could just use that as a means to fix things in the future. But it doesn't mean you have to get all upset about it and go into a downward spiral because you're all depressed because your comedy show didn't go the way you wanted it to. No one laughed. Oh my god, it's like, all right, well, just got to work on it.
Yeah.
This one.
Well, I want to welcome Amberson A.Cat to the live chat. It says, greetings, catching the live, need to catch up on the others. Keep up the fun and stimulating conversations. Thank you, Amberson.
Thank you, Cat. I like it. Nice. I have a cat right here in front of the computer on the table. Come here, hon. All right, let's see. I'm going to shout it to Bach. So it's your turn, right, to read the
Yes.
Dwight Goddard.
Dwight Goddard. He entitles verse 24, Troubles and Merit. It is not natural to stand on tiptoe, or being astride, one does not walk. One who displays himself is not bright, or one who asserts himself cannot shine. A self-approving man has no merit, nor does one who praises himself grow. So the word astride, I was kind of like, wait, what does he mean by that? So I looked it up, and astride means standing with your legs apart. So yeah, clearly it's not natural to stand on tiptoe. It's just a thing that you can do, but it doesn't mean you do it all the time. It's uncomfortable after a while. So standing with your legs apart, you can't walk. It says being astride, one does not walk. All right, so that makes sense, I think. I guess what he's trying to say with that is, like, you can't do two things at the same time. Maybe like if you're standing with your legs apart, then you're standing with your legs apart, but you can't walk at the same time. So it's one or the other. One who displays himself is not bright. So that goes along with the he who tries to shine dims his own light from Stephen Mitchell. And then, or one who asserts himself cannot shine. So that one, I'm not quite sure what he means by that. Maybe you can shed some of your thoughts.
Yeah, so I think something that's shining, think of like a shining tower or a beacon of light, like Brandon means beacon, light beacon. How do lighthouses work, right? They work by just being there, being themselves and shining bright. They don't have to assert themselves as far as like assert their own point of view, their worldview, right? They just live their life, and by living their life, they are the example. That's
Then
how.
let me read Amberson's comment, because she says, thanks for the shout out. I'm assuming it's a she, so I'm sorry, Amberson. I don't know if you're girl or guy, but says, thanks for the shout out. I'm torn. Your channel deserves to have way more viewers, but it's fun to have an actual small group to interact with. Yes, we get it.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
we love that we have like a small group to interact with, because just because you have like 50,000 viewers or 1 million viewers, it doesn't mean anything, honestly. 1
Exactly.
million people aren't going to see the same things in the same way or see things in the same way. There's going to be, 1 million views, obviously.
Yes, it's either that or a work is going to be like heavily praised later. Like that's what happens with a lot of people. And during their time, they're not as popular, but then later on, people are like, "Oh shit," because we're like early adopters sometimes. We're kind of
Yeah.
at the forefront of where consciousness might be going, and we're not like saying this to be like we're the best. We're just kind of into these ideas, and we notice that people have started to get into them slowly, which is great. And it's not like we're the first ones to be into these ideas or whatever, but yeah, 100%. That's hilarious. And yeah, Amberson, just so you know, that's our whole thing. We say we're niche. We're the niche of the niche, like niche of the niche. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I like what Quiet Sparky Bear said. Let's go, Light Beacon. Let's do it.
Let's go, light beacon.
Yeah, right. It's not picking up the claps. So. All right.
RV Nesbeats says, I'm hearing I shared the power remix in my head now sitting in the laundromat. I don't know what that.
Oh yeah, I got the power.
Oh, that one. Oh, okay.
Snap. That was the name of the artist, if you guys are looking that up.
And I intuited well that Amberson was a lady. So there we go.
Must have been that lovely feminine intuition.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah, so we were saying the one who asserts himself cannot shine. I really loved what you were saying there. Yeah, it was really good. I can't remember exactly what you said, but
the
it was
light
good.
beacon stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the asserting part of it, like,
yeah, you're not assertive, right? You're not trying to tell anybody it's the way to do it. You're just doing it. And by doing it, it's like when people look at me, they're like, "Oh wow, you seem to be having a great time." Like, what's your secret? It's like one of those
yeah.
things. Let them come to you. You don't have to go to them.
Yeah.
Just like the show. Come to us.
Yeah. We don't force our show on people.
That's right.
All right. And a self-approving man has no merit, nor does one who praises himself grow. So one who's constantly praising themselves can't grow. So Brandon, stop praising yourself. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like well, I'm tall enough. I don't need to grow anywhere. That's why I stopped praising myself a long time ago. No, or I kept praising myself so I wouldn't grow. There we go. Yeah, it's what was I gonna say? It reminds me of oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like a big contradiction, right? Because earlier in the show we were talking about how you shouldn't talk negative about yourself and you should say like good things. But I think here what they're talking about is somebody who is overdoing it and is actually being like cocky or boastful. Sometimes people ask you like, how good are you? And you're gonna be like, I'm damn good.
That when you're good at something, that you are.
Yeah, it's like when people say I'm confident, not cocky, like that.
Yes.
And yeah, I think we got that pretty good. And not that it's wrong to be self-approving, right? Like you want to love yourself,
right? Exactly.
not to rely on exterior influences for your validation, but
it's all in the intention.
balance.
Are you doing it to get the praise of others, right?
Yeah.
Or are you just simply stating a fact?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because like sometimes people got to know, like, listen, can you handle the wheel? We're about to rob this bank. Are you a good driver or not? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you got to be like, yeah, I can handle. Or you're like, no, you want to drive? I'll handle the hostages.
Other stuff.
All right. Here we go. So the Stan Rosenthal version is he who stretches beyond his natural reach does not stand firmly upon the ground. It's basically what they're all been saying, right?
The tiptoe part, right?
The tiptoe, yep. Just as he who travels at a speed beyond his means cannot maintain his pace. Rabbit and the hare stuff, or the tortoise and the hare stuff right there. Exactly. You got to pace yourself, right? Balance. He who boasts is not enlightened, and he who is self-righteous does not gain respect from those who are meritorious. I like that because it says self-righteous instead of like talking bragging or whatever.
That's the best. That's a good way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Self-righteous.
Thus he gains nothing and will fall into disrepute. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, the he who travels at a speed beyond his means cannot maintain his pace. Yeah. And we talked about this before, like, like runners, like really fast marathon runners,
Long
like
distance runners, right?
the long distance runners, they have to pace themselves. They go 100%, they won't make it. They will have to slow down, stop, and then people will pass them, blah, 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 right? But, it's also too, like, you could, when you're on this path, and you're like, I'm full steam ahead, and you have the tortoise behind you, and he's just like, yep, I'm taking it one step at a time. And what if you get off the trail, you fall, you ran so fast you tripped, it's like you could miss things. You're not paying attention. You're trying to do too many things at once.
It
Trying
also
too hard, too
reminds
much.
me, yeah, no, totally. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it also reminds me of somebody who might look into something like, say, spirituality, and they get really high up with all this knowledge, and then they ascend so fast that their ego kind of takes over, and they're like, look at me, I'm better than all these other people. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like the tortoise and the hare, right? So the hare takes off and he's way far ahead, so he's like, oh, I'm so far ahead, he gets cocky and he's like, oh, I'm going to take a nap, I don't need it.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, like you said, they get lost and they wander. And then, while the other person that does it one step at a time has a system and they're balanced and they're just getting through it evenly, and they end up enduring when the hare gets lost in the woods or is taking a nap or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Let's see here.
He who boasts is not enlightened. He who is self-righteous doesn't gain respect from those, I will say, those who have merit. Maybe because I couldn't find the word meritus in the dictionary, at least not this one. Thus he gains nothing and will fall into disrepute. Yeah. So boastful people really don't get themselves very far.
Yeah, and they fall into disrepute, so they do the opposite of what they want to do. It's an inversion.
Yeah. And if I think about this a little bit, just going just a little bit deeper, I just think of people who, for example, are self-righteous and they're in these churches and these cults per se sometimes. These are the people that make these churches look bad because they're the hypocrites. They're they're so self-righteous, but yet people see that behind everyone's back, they say they're this, but then they're doing this behind everyone's back. It's like, that's the kind of people. It's like they think they're so up here, but people eventually see, and then that's the people that people are like, I stopped going to church because everyone's a hypocrite. Well, yeah, if you're self-righteous like that, a lot of people in those congregations are going to be that way because they are still dealing with that whatever in their life that needs to be dealt with. or they're ignoring the shadow work that needs to be done.
Exactly. Well said.
All
All
right.
right.
So Aleister Crowley, verse 24.
Yep.
Okay. He entitles it evil manners. He who standeth a tiptoe standeth not firm. He who maketh rigid his legs walketh ill. He who preeneth himself shineth not. He who talketh positively is vulgar. He who boasteth is refused acceptance. And he who is wise in his own conceit is thought inferior. So he similarly talks about the man with rigid legs walketh ill. That reminded me of what Dwight Goddard said when he says, wasn't it Dwight Goddard? Oh,
Stride.
being astride one does not walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he says walketh ill. Like if your legs are far apart, or your legs are rigid. So he says it a little differently. And then he who preeneth himself shineth not. And the preeneth thing wasn't it like you're always like,
Yeah, like me with my
preening,
hair all
you're
the
like
time.
preening yourself. Yeah.
Uh, we good to go now? Yeah, it's
Hey, Beacon, it says he who preeneth himself shineth not.
I know, right? Exactly. I gotta preen a little though, because I don't want to look homeless, but not
Right,
too.
right. I get it. I have to preen a little bit too. So
Yeah, but again, I think it's a balance, right? It's over excess. Like you want to look good
yes.
and fit in and not scare people away. Like that's the thing about
Yeah.
me. Sometimes I don't realize like if my face is the hair is crazy, my hair, it's like, oh my God, do I have a stick in my hair? Do I look
Do you have one of those eyebrows that's like that?
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
sometimes I do. I have like one hair that like sticks up. It's like the Gandalf eyebrows. That's what I'm going for. But yeah, 100%. I think that's the only one that's not as straightforward in here. Pretty much. The other one too is like he who talketh positively is vulgar.
Yes. That's the one that I was going to talk about. That I wanted to ask you about.
Um, the only thing I could think of is like vulgar and profane, and maybe they're talking about like uh that's always talking. Somebody who's like always talking. I don't think it means somebody who's like talking nicely. Like
Yeah. Or
or
doing
maybe
what
it
we
just
were
means
talking about, which was to
maybe
be, speaking positively about yourself and others and things like that.
yeah, exactly. I think it has more to do with like thinking you know everything like oh you know what it means he who talketh positively okay so somebody who talks like certainty is ruin right so somebody who thinks and
Oh,
talk like they're always certain maybe that's what they mean like they're always positive about things positive as in sure of themselves all the time
yes.
like it's
I'm
positively
reading
true.
I'm reading the dictionary for vulgar just to see if there was something else we're missing. It's as a noun, it's archaic now, but it's the common people, the vulgar people, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um an obsolete it's all also obsolete. It means the vernacular. But and so it's being used as a noun, so then it's probably means something like that, right? Because is it an adjective, which is characterized by ignorance or lack of good breeding or taste? Ignorance of or lack of good breeding or taste. And then the second definition is indecent, obscene, and lewd. So does
So
that
I think
match with
it's the
anything of what you
first
were saying?
I think it's the first. Yeah. So it's like if you are talking positively, meaning that it's kind of like you're making claims. That's the best way to put it. He who makes
Okay.
claims is vulgar, thinking that you know everything, right? And vulgar
Okay,
just
yes.
means, what was the first definition?
Characterized by ignorance of or lack of good breeding or taste.
Oh, what was the first one though? That's
Oh, the archaic noun?
yeah.
Oh, the common people.
Yeah, so it's like you're like the regular people, right? Like you're like
Yeah.
like the common people,
Okay. Yes. Yes.
the
Okay.
uninitiated, if you will.
Uh-huh.
You're just like everyone else. You out there making claims, just like
Mhm.
everyone else making claims, thinking you know it all. You're gonna fall on
So
your butt
he
like
who
the
maketh
tower.
claims is the common people.
Yeah, is like a common person or is like a vulgar or profane.
Yeah. Okay.
It
And
makes
he who
sense.
boasteth is refused acceptance. I mean, and that one makes sense. And then he who is wise in his own conceit is thought inferior. Same thing. That's self-righteousness. Wise in his own conceit is self-righteousness.
Exactly.
I want to welcome Gordy, who joined a few minutes
Hey,
ago.
Gordy, what's up? And then PK says maybe they're talking about the biblical Pharisees concept, the boastful spiritual person. I'm so much better than you because I'm so much more spiritual than you. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
You're being vulgar. It's a vulgar display of power. That's the name of a
Mm.
Pantera album. sure some people know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I used to love Pantera. I mean, not that I don't like him now, but like when I was in high school. All right. Let's see. So I think we can go on to the second part then, right? Oh, he's yeah, both
Yes.
sit in wise in his own conceit is thought inferior.
Yeah, those two make sense and sound similar to some of the other ones.
Don't be wise in your own conceit, everybody. All right. I'm going to scroll back up here to the second part of Stephen Mitchell. If you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job, then let go. So basically, he's just stating a bunch of whole examples, right? He stands on tiptoe, he rushes ahead, and then he goes, if you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job, then let go. Just do the Tao or do your Dharma. Just do your Dharma and let go of the results. Don't have desires for things to be other than they are. Wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first. As Don Teague used to say, this guy I worked with, he's like, my daddy always used to say, his dad was like in the army from down south. He's like, wishing, because like, if he was like, oh, I wish I had this, he'd be like, wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one fills up first. It's so true. Yeah, don't have desires. Again, we're all going to have them. They're part of life. It's natural. But just if you know what they are, then I think they become easier to work with. You know, your desires are key, I think, to work that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all included here. Trust me, I have desires just like the next man or woman. You
Yeah,
want
and the
to
thing too is not to be attached
yeah,
to any desires. Um, just
yeah, that's the
flow
thing.
with
Like
it.
you could have like we talked about in the upcoming episode. You can eat pizza once in a while, right? Like say you maybe you want to cheat, maybe you don't. You know, that's fine. I get it. But my kind of frame of thinking is like once in a while you do it. You just try not to make it a thing you're attached to, or whatever it is.
Right.
Kind of be like drinking alcohol, right? Like, hey, everyone wants to go out once in a while. I mean, it could be fair to say that for most people, it's cool to go out once in a while and have a drink or two and relax
Hmm.
and be social.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you want to be drinking all day and all day every day.
Escaping, because then that's escapism.
Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just a cycle you get trapped in. That's all. We're just pointing it out.
Yes. It reminds me of the Ram Dass when he was the Ram Dass thing you told me about, where he was in a restaurant and he was all it's in the audiobook that we listened to, but he was trying to be, all goody vegetarian. And the day that he decides to go get something to break his like, I'm better than you because I'm vegetarian ism, he decides to get some meat at a restaurant, and then someone comes up to him and is like, oh, what are you eating? And then he's like, oh, so what is your diet lifestyle like? And he like, it's like, what do you say? What do you say to that?
Yeah, right. He's like, I
He
got the
couldn't be
chicken
too
bones getting
attached to
right.
being a vegetarian.
Yeah, he's like, I'd like to. Yeah, he basically, like you said, he realized how phony he was being, or just the ego was taken over by him telling everybody, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian. I'm so good. I eat. Doesn't do any harm." So because he realized he was caught in that, he went out to a Chinese restaurant and had some spare ribs. And while he was having it, some guy came up to him, started talking, and then was like, "Oh, by the way, you look healthy. What do you eat?" And he's like, "You're looking at it." Yeah, that's why it is cool to break patterns sometimes and do things that you normally wouldn't do. That's why I'm gonna go smoke some crack later, everybody. I don't think I'm gonna smoke crack. That ship has sailed. I missed my opportunity if I ever wanted to do that, which I never have.
Oh
Too
my
old to
god.
get into crack now.
Oh my god.
All right, you
But
want to?
did you vape it though?
Yeah, but did you vape the cocaine? Then it's okay.
All right. Dwight Goddard, verse 24, the last bit. The relation of these things to Tao is the same as awful as to food. And when he says these things, he's talking about self-display, self-assertion, and self-approval. So the relation of these things to Tao is the same as awful as to food. In other words, what you call it, organ meats. The same as organ meats is to food. They are excrescences. You know what? I'm just gonna have to find
read the
that
definition.
definition again. And there it is. Okay. Excrescence. So excrescences. So an excrescence is an abnormal outgrowth, usually harmless, on an animal or vegetable body, or it is a normal outgrowth as hair or horns. So it's like an outgrowth, whether it's abnormal or normal. So
Could awful have a different meaning then? Other than just organs?
let's see. Because I'm pretty sure it is like organ meat. I'm pretty sure I looked this up to confirm that before, but I'll reconfirm here.
Yes.
All right. All right. So, yes, thank you. Offal can be the edible organs or organ parts of a butchered animal, organ meat, right? Or it can mean the parts of a butchered animal that are considered inedible by human beings. Or it can be garbage, refuse, rubbish. So it can be garbage. So let's say if he means garbage, it's the same as garbage is to food.
Or the unedible parts of the food.
Or the
No matter
inedible.
what it is, even if it's like a apple, you can't eat the seeds or whatever, right? Or the stem. Or the banana, you don't want to eat the peel.
Okay, there you go. That makes more sense. They are basically outgrowths from the system. They are detestable. So Tao does not dwell in. So yeah, like what are those like like a skin tag probably is like an outgrowth, right?
Yep.
It's not a
Or like a boil or something.
okay. Yeah, so these things like self-display and self-assertion, self-approval, they're like these outgrowths. They're not pleasant.
They are detestable.
They're detestable. Yeah.
The Tao
And
does not
Tao does
dwell
not
on them.
dwell in them.
That's kind of a contradiction. But I know it. I think it means like the way of yeah, like that's not the way. Eating all this detestable garbage that's not actually food. The Tao
Yeah.
does well in that.
Or doing all the self-display, self-assertion, self-approval. That's not part of the way
Exactly. There you go.
in the negative way, right?
Yeah. It's not part of flowing with the Tao. All right. It's like you're out at dinner. It's like, can you pass more of them ribs? Yeah. Can you pass more of those boils that we cut off of this cow that we're gonna eat? It's like, ugh. All right.
Yeah.
Stan Rosenthal, 1984, the excess, second part of the verse. Since striving, boasting, and self-righteousness are all unnecessary traits, the sage considers them excess and has no need of them. I don't even think we have to explain that. It basically just says what it means right there, right?
Yeah. And Dwight Goddard just kind of said the same thing, only a little more wordy, which is
Yeah.
interesting because Stan Rosenthal just like said it, boom, boom, boom. I'm just telling you like it is.
Yeah, but I like it though
Nice.
because it is like the air, like the communication sortie version, because he's just giving it
Yes.
to you straight, right?
Yes. Yes, it
Straightforward,
is.
like a sword chop. You want to read the Crowley?
Yeah. So the Aleister Crowley says, such attitudes to him that hath the view given by understanding the Tao seem like garbage or like cancer, abhorrent to all. They then who follow the way do not admit them. Basically, same thing, right? These boasting, self-righteous attitudes. If you understand the Tao, those things are like garbage or cancer. They're abhorrent. And those who follow the way, the Tao, they don't admit them.
And
When he says admit, I
the
don't.
best part about this is like that doing it till you're done concept that we always talk about. And if you're new to the channel, what we say is, we don't like to judge people that are out there doing stuff, say they're, doing drugs or whatever. They're like selling their VCR to do drugs. So they're in a really bad place. we don't want to judge them. We're just going to let it say that they're going to do it till they're done, right? So this is the same kind of thing. So with that concept, what I would say is if it doesn't seem like garbage or cancer or abhorrent to you, then it means it's not your way yet. You still have to, you know, do it till you're done. But if it does appear, and that's what I like about this stuff, because it's all about not pushing it, right? Going with the flow. That's the Tao. So if it seems all bad to you, then you don't do it. And if it's not bad yet, you do it until you're just like, this just isn't me anymore. I gotta
Mm-hmm.
stop smoking crack. This is like my fourth VCR this week. I bought and sold for crack. But yeah,
Yeah, and it reminds me of the show that we're gonna have on next week on Thursday with Topher Gardner, and we're gonna talk about some of those thoughts that
we are
Brandon
going to
just
talk
shared.
about some of those thoughts. Let's do this really quick. How about I play a preview for
A
everybody?
preview clip of
What
next
else would
week's
this work?
show.
Like
Well,
you could literally do anything.
started playing. All right, I'm gonna see if I can do this now. Let's see. Share the screen. Nope.
But well, you do that. Gordy says VCR. Was that the last? Was that the thing the last time you had to sell stuff for drugs? It's been a while, huh?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well for myself. I always just like to reference the VCR. I think it's hilarious because because when the crack epidemic was huge, like in the old hood movies, that's what they had, VCRs and stuff. So all right, here we go. You guys are gonna get to see a little behind the scenes because I'm sharing my iMovie. Here we go. That other thing you said about being hard on yourself, boy, that's so true. Because when you learn these things, I'm not sharing the sound, am I?
Yeah, no, I hear it.
Oh, you hear it? Okay, cool.
This is how I have to be now. This is the perfect way to be. I got to be that way. And then when you fall short, nobody's harder than yourself. You're like your hardest critic. And that's something I had to learn. So that's why sometimes I just, I'll do a thing where sometimes I'll try to be eating a certain way, but then once in a while I'm like, let's just eat pizza. Like, so let's just do it. Like, because why not? We're here to experience things. And why am I going to be hard on myself? If I'm going to go out and like eat pizza, or if I'm going to do something I'm not supposed to do or whatever, I'm going to enjoy it and enjoy it fully instead of beat myself up over it. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. These days, I'm just like, I am an eternal being. What can harm me? Nothing can harm me. So, God bless it. Whatever it is I get, whatever gets on my body or touches my skin, you know what? I'm doing my best, and sometimes, hey, yeah, have that pizza. Like, I'm going to eat it. It's going to taste good. I'm going to enjoy this life.
Yeah, I had a very, very strong ascetic 2 years when I was in my Raja yoga path, and I was not fun to be around. And I had a condo on the ocean in Florida where I didn't have to turn the AC on for 2 years because it had a southeast exposure. So I had the front door open and I had the back sliding glass open. So I always had the breeze moving through, and I was on the 5th story. I would ride my bike to my yoga classes, and then I would drive into my massage clients. And I did 2 sessions a day of yoga, and I was probably the cleanest I'd ever been. I did all my parasite cleansing, and then I did a Kachiri for a month, which is an Ayurvedic balancing treatment where I ate mung dal 3 times a day. And mung dal is like one of the worst tasting things in the world, but it's very bland. Yeah, it's like porridge. It's like the bean porridge, but it's horrible. And all of my conditioning around needing salt and sugar and all that stuff, like all the addictions to caffeine, all of it just came up. And by week 2 of the mung dal, I was clean. And then with all the exercise I was doing, all the fresh air I was breathing, I was like, But I noticed in the setting of South Florida in like 2000, 2001, I couldn't be around anyone. Like
You
nobody,
couldn't go to that organic restaurant that serves local food, farm to table.
no, it wasn't that.
By the way, I'm breaking in here. I thought the same thing, Sharon.
It's like it's a relativity thing. It's all because frequency is location. This is before I ever got into physics. Because I always back into what I end up getting into. This was like I was Mr.
All right, that's enough for everybody. If you want to watch the whole episode, did I freeze? I can't get out of this. I'm stuck, everybody.
I see you. You're fine.
Oh, good. No, I know, but my screen, I'm trying to exit out of iMovie. But anyway, that was Christopher Gardner. Here it goes. It works now. And I'm gonna have the preview episode up by tomorrow, so you can see that plus the rest of that conversation that was really good. And then the full thing is going to premiere next Thursday. We're really excited about it. It's just over 2 hours long. And yeah, it was a really mind-blowing conversation. If you like our show, you're gonna love, especially if you like the last time he was on, you're gonna love this episode. It's amazing.
Yes,
All right.
indeed.
What's going on with our chat?
Yeah, go ahead and check the chat.
Oh, you want to read that? Yeah, you can get it.
I can read the changing lines from card number 13 of the I Ching.
Oh, she found us from Topher. Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, you're in the right place then.
All right. So changing lines, line 1 at the bottom is an unbroken line. It says, when guests gather at the door, enthusiasm is high and divergent agendas are not yet apparent. Such are the beginnings of fellowship. Use these moments carefully. They are opportunities not to be missed. To foster goodwill among a group at the start of an enterprise or consortium, avoid secret agreements. Indeed. Goodwill is a fruit that blossoms in the light of transparency. Absolutely. When you start to question, and this is my commentary, when you're in a group and then you get this like intuitive feeling that something's not right, and maybe there's no transparency somewhere, someone seems fake and they're not giving you everything, they're not giving all the information that you feel should be given. Like if you go to a church, for example, and you're tithing and all this stuff, right? You're paying all this money to tithe, and they're not showing like a balance statement of what was used and how did money get spent, all this kind of stuff. Start asking yourself why you're there, because, start digging deeper, not to be skeptical all the time, but for your own good, Anyway, that was just my little rant. Line number 2 is a broken line. It says, fellowship within an exclusive group can bring regret or humiliation. When social contacts are elitist, divisiveness and unhealthy quarreling result. Holy smokes, this is so relevant to even just what we read today about like boastfulness and people like cult leaders being very like boastful and self-righteous.
Certainty is the road to ruin, right?
That's what we talk about next week.
Yeah.
This creates limitations for everyone. Avoid pettiness and shallow discrimination. Be open to others and their offerings. Serious loss is unlikely, but hard feelings created by an attempt to gain a temporary advantage are almost always troublesome down the road. Line number 3 is a unbroken line. It says, those who mistrust their allies, spying on them and planning surprise maneuvers usually become trapped in their own nets. It's like when you're looking for something negative, you're probably going to find it. Avoid unnecessary plotting and scheming, for it is a sign of the disintegration of your community. Holy smokes. When such a pattern has begun, put a stop to it immediately. Things will only get worse if you play games, especially now. Line 4 is an unbroken line. It says, quarrels and misunderstandings among associates have a way of settling themselves, and this brings good fortune. Let a natural resolution form between you, because fighting openly is not a good idea at this time. Imagine someone on a journey who, after a small mistake, has the patience to see the error of their ways before it's too late to change course. Sometimes, only by allowing for open disagreement can a group find its way. Open disagreement. It's okay that we don't all see everything in the same exact way. And that's okay. Where was I? Oh, wait. Each of us is likely to make a few missteps along the way, but with an open mind and compassion can still triumph in the end. Compassion is key. And those were my words. The compassion is key part. Line number 5 is also an unbroken line. It says, the strongest bond is the one between two human hearts that have come to know and share each other's inner thoughts and desires. Whether separated by circumstances or fate, divided by differences of opinion, or angered by each other's behavior, if the bond is true, nothing can break it. This type of union can experience difficulty, but it will ultimately bring the sweetest joy known to humankind. And the final line at the top, line number 6, is unbroken. It says, there is fellowship with convenient associates, but warmth is lacking. A group of cordial people may be neighbors or associates, yet no great purpose unites them. That is okay. Civility may be a less connected form of community, but it serves its members all the same. Though the situation may not be terribly satisfying, neither is it a cause for regret.
Dissident Jones says, a what bond? Trust bond?
Holy smokes. We talked about that. And sorry, we will talk about that on next week's episode.
Yeah. Stay
Trust.
tuned next Thursday. We'll
Yeah.
premiere that probably right around this time next week. So
Yeah.
look for that episode and look for the that's why you have to subscribe and hit the bell. So every time we release things, you could be the first to get the overshared goodness from the overshared show. Awesome. What's up, Joe? Joe made it. We're about to wrap up. I just got home. Cool. Oh, work late today. Well, making more money. That's good. Yeah, it's that time of year, right? I'm sure UPS is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked for UPS around this time of year. I know what it's like. And then PK
Yeah.
says, "Whoa, just noticed the awful sound. The awful sounds a lot like awful, doesn't it?" Yeah, it does.
Except in the east,
Uh,
northeast, where you guys say awful.
it's awful. It's
It's
awful.
awful.
It's awful. You're gonna eat the awful? What are you, some kind of Tao denier? You're just gonna eat gross cow pox? You're gonna love this, Joe. Go back and watch it. Um. All right.
I
Awesome.
mentioned
Well,
MBTI too, Joe.
yeah, we did. We talked about you. I was waiting for you to appear because we said your name. Um. Yeah. So this is our episode on verses 23 and 24. Like we said, we
Episode 88.
Episode 88.
88 is about abundance, isn't it?
Yeah. And tomorrow is the 1st of December. November is almost already gone. Isn't that
Well,
crazy?
I can't. That's just insane to me. I can't.
Time is flying by. Black Friday came and went. White
I
Wednesday.
know.
I'm going to start up my own day, White Wednesday. It's going to be great.
White
Everything full
wedding.
price. Yeah, White Wedding Wednesday. Well, if you'd like to know more about us or support us, you can go to morelawsmoreproblems.com. Click on the Oversharing tab. Get all your oversharing needs. Oh, yeah, 88 miles per hour to time travel and Back to the Future. There you go. We're time traveling back to the Tao. Yeah, so it's the best way to support us, really, or the best way to support us is to just show up here when we do these things, hang out in the chat, subscribe, hit the bell, like the video, share and share on. Yeah.
The 5th of
And
November.
what's
Remember. I think he's talking about V for Vendetta.
that? Oh, yeah. Good movie.
Remember. The 5th.
Yeah, so thank you guys so much for hanging out to the end. This is great. Let us know what you think. Leave some comments. We really love the comments, and it's great to be back because we took last week off. We didn't even talk about that. Yes, we had a nice
Yes.
thanksful Thanksgiving week off. It's always nice to
Yes.
take a break and come back at it fresh. So we have a couple really cool guests coming up. Obviously, we already talked about Topher, and we have a couple more at least. So stay tuned. And what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start oversharing,
Then you totally stop being a Karen.
that's right.
And remember, we're not telling you how to live.
Maybe just how to live a little more simply. Could it
That's
be?
right. Could it be? All right, guys. We'll see you later. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
And we're done. We have 33 views. That's so funny.